Our program today is Wes Miller. I'm delighted that he's agreed to come and speak to us. I have very high regard for Wes. In fact, when Mayor Chafee decided not to run, I actually thought our next mayor would be Wes Miller. Is what I thought would happen, because he's done a very good job in the Finance Committee at the City Council. And right now, though, he is, I think, chair of a committee trying to figure out an exit strategy for some of the offenders at BJCC who have completed the program and completed it well. And Wes, if you'll come up and tell us about that, we'd sure appreciate it.
Thank you. And had Arden decided to run, obviously he would have had no competition from me. I'm perfectly happy serving as a council member, and the mayor position takes a lot of time, and I think that former mayor, current mayor both have the necessary skills to perform that, so I'll stay right where I'm at. I'm pleased to be here in front of you guys. I know I usually meet in this room tomorrow, so it's a little hard for me to say that it's nice to be in front of the best club that meets in this room on Wednesdays. So congratulations to Terry Klein and his daughter winning Miss Alva and Skeeter. Apparently, our members aren't old enough to have kids there, so congratulations. That being said, about a year ago, Joe Don and I, the city manager, were talking about employment issues that we were having at City Hall. I serve on the personnel committee, and we had a long list of entry-level positions that we could not fill. Oil field was taking a lot of those possible positions away from us, and we were struggling to fill those. And so we started talking about the possibility of released, can't say prisoners, but guys that have served their time and gotten out, and what opportunity there might be for them to re-enter the community here. The prison has always stated that those guys have it's easier for them to get back in trouble if they go back to where they're from. A lot of those gentlemen have spent time working on city crews, on state crews, some of the college crews, they have a crew. So there was opportunity for those guys to already have experience and possibly serve in our community if we could just solve one issue: housing. Guys that are released leave prison with, most of them, $50 and maybe a bus ticket, and kind of on their own. So we started talking met with Janice out at the prison about this, and one thing led to another, and we've kind of snowballed into a committee that we don't have a name for yet, but we have already placed one gentleman with a job with the city, and we've got a house for him. He's currently doing very well. Our committee is really just we're just getting going, and we've met with community foundations, so now we're at the next step. We're at the point we're going to start raising money for this program. I'm glad to see Todd showed up today. I can call him out. He is a part of our group, and a very key part, and if those of you that don't know, he now serves on the board down in Oklahoma City on prisons. I don't know the exact title. If he has one, a member? Okay, he's a member, which is great for our community to have that kind of representation down in the city. Janice has been very gracious in lending us prison employees to help us decide what's the best course of action to take for our group. Ken is here today. He serves on our board, and our board is really it's a small group of people from the Citizens Advisory Board from the prison. We kicked this off. We weren't sure what we were going to do, how we were going to do it. We've looked at a lot of different programs to see if there's ones that we can model after. We've looked at Oxford House. We've looked at the one in Hope Outreach, which has stuff in Fairview, Enid. None of these really, truly, they don't want to come up here and do it. They all say, good, we're glad you're doing that. We'll give you all the information and help we can, as long as they don't have to try and do it. So again, Alva's stuck with, we're going to have to do it ourselves, and that's what we're trying to do right now. We've got another gentleman that we've got a job lined up for. I believe he's released October, November, and we're excited about that. The one that we've got still seems to be doing well. We've heard nothing negative about it. We as a community, we have heard several people that are a little bit nervous about it. All I can say to that is there's a very good chance that there's already somebody living near you that was in prison or could have been. And whether you like to think about it that way or not, it's the truth. And coming out of prison, there might be, society's going to have a stigma for those guys that, well, you've been in prison. Well, yes, but there's not a lot of difference between some of the guys that are in prison and a lot of the people that aren't. Could be the difference between a good lawyer and a bad lawyer. Could have been the difference between parents had money to afford that guy and he didn't have anything. There's a lot of reasons that these guys are there, and the ones that we're accepting into our program are good guys. I mean, they want to be here. They're asking to stay in Alva. They're asking because they know what can happen if they go back. They really want to start over. We got to give them that chance. As society, we owe them that. Because if we don't even try, then we're failing at that. So our group is really just trying to help them with that. We have the prison ministry. We have them as part of our group, and they're actually helping these guys before they ever get released to inform them about the program and what the options are and what they can do. We've got a mentor program that we're trying to set up through our group. None of this is set in stone yet. We are still at the very infancy of this program, and there's a long way to go, and we're really just kind of trial and error. So far it's worked, and we know that at some point we'll have a failure, just like everybody else in life. You're going to fail at something sometime. We know that, and I say we're prepared for it. We're prepared for it only because we know it's going to happen. We know we're going to have somebody make a mistake. That's part of why we're trying to develop the mentorship program and give these guys 3-4 people that they can talk to when they have issues, so that before they really have a slip up, maybe we can get to them and help prevent that. We are looking for mentors. It's not going to be an easy thing. The mentorship program is going to require a lot of training, and it's not just a feel-good mentorship program where you give somebody their phone number, they may or may not call you. The mentorship that we're going to be doing is actually going to be pretty involved and require quite a bit of training for people to do that, simply because the prison doesn't want to turn these guys loose to just anybody. You got to know what to look for, and that's just going to, if you ask anybody from the prison, they'll tell you there's things to look for when you hire these guys, and if you start seeing that, it needs to be addressed. Ken is just telling me today about a lot of the places he's actually been in town that have already stated they would hire these guys. We know there's opportunity, but the number one thing is the housing. So any help that we can get there, we appreciate. We are currently looking for what we feel would be the most opportune would be an apartment that we could actually sublease to these guys, and then we would be the landlord. Our group would be the tenant, and we would just sublease and make sure that the landlord's property is maintained, taken care of. We're not looking to do things for full term of their employment here. We want to be a temporary, just 3 months, get them into something permanent. They can get on and start renting their own place. We've had one guy that we thought we had a chance. He had a family. His wife was in the medical professional. Turned out he had some other things, other duties he had to fulfill prior to getting released. This next guy has a fiance. She works. She wants to be, hadn't been in prison, but when he gets out, he would like to be here. He'd like to bring her here, and they'd like to start their life in Alva. So any help we can give these guys is good for Alva, it's good for the employers, and it's good for those guys. It's going to help the prison. The prison system, as you know, is overwhelmed with shortfalls financially and overrun, as Janice can tell you, with prisoners. There's no space. And if we can keep one or two of them from going back, it's going to help everybody. And if we can get them reintroduced to society and help them maybe learn the Alva way, that you roll your sleeves up and you get to work and you get it done, good things will happen to you. So with that, is there any questions? Like I said, we're still at our very infancy. Yeah.
I would assume there's a finite number of positions that will match the skill set for the trainees and so forth. What's your long-term strategy, or how long do you intend these people to be in these training programs or as employees to move them out to make room for new people to come in?
As far as if they start a job, we'd be happy with them staying with that job for as long as they want, moving up as their employer feels fit. We're just on the housing side of it, really, and we're going to have to provide some mentorship because we want it to work out. And if we're going to provide housing for somebody, there's going to be a lot of guidelines and rules that they're going to have to follow. We're still developing those. They're pretty strict. It's not going to be, these guys are going to have very strict rules that they follow if we're going to pay for their housing for any length of time and get them set up. The goal is to get them a couple of months, and then if they want to move into a different place, they can go get it. We're just trying to give them that first step. As far as training, we have discussed that in our group, kind of just in brainstorming sessions, that if we can start getting some money coming in and develop some sort of small endowments, we could start offering scholarships. Guys could go out to the VOTEC and get more training. They could possibly go to the college and get some training there. Anything to help them is going to benefit us as a society down the road. So as far as how long they're in their employment, that's really up to them. Most of the guys coming out, so far it's just been a city crew, and he was on a work release crew with the I think streets or water department, I can't remember which, for 3 or 4 months before he got released. So it worked out great for the city. He was already trained. He just had to step in, and now he got to show up every day. Yes?
I've got no idea what volume of people you're talking about.
One right now.
At any one time that you might have need for.
Right now,
Like houses? Could they be in an apartment? Could they be in a house? There's all kinds of little houses around that can be fixed up and need to be fixed up.
there is. And
Sound maybe instruction that they're falling in.
we have to be very careful with. Right now, we've got one placed, and we've got another guy. Luckily, we've had 3 months in between these guys to try to get our ducks in a row. We've got one guy coming in October, November, and that's not a guarantee. Eventually, we would like to get into some sort of a halfway house, where maybe we have a full-time staff or staff person, and maybe we've got 6 to 8 people there. The trouble with that is, one, Alva's a very small community. Everybody's going to know exactly where that house is. So it's going to be very tricky to convince neighbors that, look, this is going to be a good thing for your neighborhood, not a negative. It really puts the bullseye on that house and on us if we try to do a house right now. The main thing right now, we don't have funds, and we don't have the guys coming out that are really chomping at the bit to get in this. We're just at the beginning. We're hoping maybe in 2, 3, 4 years we have 6 guys at a time that we've got to find housing for. That'd be a great problem to have. Luckily, we've got one at a time, and until we get this thing a little bit further along, hopefully we kind of keep it that way. So it's all dependent upon those in the system and finding out that there's this here, and whether or not they'd like to remain in Alva or go back to wherever they're more comfortable.
So anyone getting out would qualify?
No, we're right now.
Who decides what criteria do they use to decide who
You
would
know-
get this opportunity?
You know, it's a challenge to say who decides. They're being, we've got a couple guys in the prison ministry that are offering that and showing them. Ken is in charge of a lot of those guys getting released and telling them what the options are and what might be out there for them. He's mentioning this to them. it's up to the prisoner to decide whether they want to do it, because we are going to have a lot of rules and regulations that they're not going to have if they go home. So if they're going to come into our program, they're going to know ahead of time, hey, here's the rules I'm going to have to follow. You know, some basic ones would be, you know, there's no alcohol, there's no drugs, there's no overnight guests. You're going to have to be, you know, we want you to be there at certain times. We don't want you carousing around after 10 o'clock at night. We've still got to give them some freedom, but as long as they're in our house, they're going to live under our rules.
So, but like you said, if they may be there a couple months, and then if they get on their feet, go rent their own place, then they're on their own.
Yeah, once, I mean, that's the whole point. We want to get them back into society on their own, where they don't need help, so that they don't end up back in a facility. So
when they go out, their sentence is over.
Yes, yeah. When we get them, they're done. They're
House and move out tomorrow. They can do that.
They can. When they get out, they're free men. They're no different than anybody in this room as far as that goes. Now, they may have parole and probation and stuff like that they've got to report, but they don't have to be in our program. It's not a requirement. Yes?
Do you see the program potentially extending beyond the confines of Alva? I'm thinking
I couldn't say no. If it worked and it turned out to be a good model, I think we'd love for that to happen. I don't know that Todd or Ken and I or anybody in our group would like to be the leader of that type of thing right now, but 5-10 years from now, who knows? If we could develop a model that others wanted to take to their towns and cities, that'd be fantastic. You know, like I said, this whole thing kind of originated out of an employment problem. Turns out the employment problem is a housing problem, as we all saw over the last couple of years. What happened with rent and housing availability? Well, the ones that suffer are those entry-level jobs. So we have to come up with a way to solve that, and it was with housing and guys that are getting released that want a chance. A unique opportunity presented itself that maybe we've got something good that we could do here that also solves problems for the community. Right. Keep in mind that most of these guys, when they get out, $50 in a bus ticket. Transportation is going to be an issue. So we're trying to solve the housing. We're working with employers to try to convince them that, you know, look, if we really want to give these guys a chance, somebody might have to pick them up for the first couple of months until, you know, somebody finds them a cheap car that they can afford, or, you know, they can walk to work or something. So that would be an issue to look at Cherokee, Winoka. Right now, we're focused on Alva.
And basically, there's a lot more focused on trying to fill needs in the city now.
Well, that's what started it for us.
Yeah, I mean, I could see this, you know, because they're already working for the city of Northwestern, and Northwestern can't keep maintenance guys either. And I don't know what they're feeling being on campus, but, you know, I mean, I could see those just being, they're familiar, they're already there, and try to keep them, you know.
We've had Plain Plastics is trying to hire guys before they're ever released. You know, they've asked if they could hire. Ken can tell you, he talked to them the other day, and they asked, hey, can we hire them before they're released? Well, you know, I suppose if they wanted to, but they still got to have a place to live. VAP, same thing. They're struggling to get guys. Ken went around and talked to many businesses, and he can give more information on this, but something I didn't even know about that he talked about a minute ago with me. There is a, what did you call that? The bonding. You can get a federal bond, just apply for it if you hire a felon, or even, they don't have to be an ex-felon. But for a lot of people that are receiving assistance, there's programs for employers that you can get a federal bond for 6 months. If that guy steals from you, if he damages your property, your equipment, this bond will take care of that. And if you want to continue it after that first 6 months, you can pay for it. You could work it out with the employer to pay for it. There's lots of options, but I didn't know about that. that's a good thing. It covers the employer. So if an employer's on the fence about whether or not they want to hire an ex-felon, which in all honesty they may have already hired one, if they don't do background checks, there's no telling how many ex-felons have worked for people in this room. But with a bond, you can get that guy that's on the fence about doing it to say, look, you're covered. If he steals from you, you're covered. And then you're basically giving a 6-month trial to a guy that's, if something happens, you're covered.
One of the things that might end up happening, like BAP, like plastics, they might end up following the oil fields model, where the oil field came in and rented a place for their hands to be here. And,
Yeah.
Yeah. If I'm Plains Plastics, I may have to put a 3-bedroom motorhome somewhere. And
Right.
Bunk beds in it that hold.
And that's a possibility that if they do that, great. I don't know that would fall under us or not. I think that's an option. We could partner with these employers, and we would be happy to look into that. If anybody knows those guys that are talking about that, I don't think we're going to be opposed to sitting down and having that conversation to see what's going to work out. The end goal is what's going to be best for the community. Well, if we can fill those jobs and put some of these guys that are getting released into those jobs, keep them off the street, keep them from getting back, better for everybody. Do you have anything?
I just want to thank Wes and this community coming up on our 20th anniversary. So some of this is all kind of great timing. But from the beginning of time, Alvin has just been a trailblazer in so many different ways. This is another piece where the community has stepped up to fill a need. And the numbers are so hard to get to, but if I can give you a visual, you have 758 offenders now built on this. Probably 80% of those guys have got homes and they've got families waiting for them, and they're going to go back. But in every facility, you've got a group of offenders that really got nothing. They didn't have anything when they came in, or what Wes said, they really don't want to go back because they know that's what brought them here. And so that's the pool we're looking at. And of that pool, there will be a group that might take advantage of an opportunity to have a job and get that put up in housing. Housing is just a huge challenge because these guys, those kind of folks who really don't have a lot of resources, really leave with not much. And just that 1 or 2 month put up to get that first month's rent, get the utilities on, and get those few paychecks, they will want to go out and get money in the house. So, I don't think, I really appreciate the focus, because this is a short-term service, because that's what really reentry is. It isn't providing them forever housing. It isn't providing them a job. It's just to get that put up so they can be successful. So, I'm so excited because I think this has such great potential, and I think it's something that could be replicated. But yet I also don't believe there's too many communities like ours that would be this welcoming. So I'd like to think it is meeting a need. We've got employers that need good workers, and I think it's got some guys that really would be good workers, and a good chance to start over someplace that they really could turn their life around. So I don't know that the numbers will ever be huge. When we were at the peak with Sandridge, I think the most that we ever placed with Sandridge, we might have had 12 to 15. That was the peak that we hit, and it went up and down. So these aren't huge numbers.